Atlanta's skyline shimmered in late afternoon gold, glass towers catching the sun like quiet beacons of ambition. Inside the DuPont Holdings headquarters, Nia Jordan clutched her design portfolio, her pulse a measured beat beneath her silk blouse. She'd spent weeks perfecting the gala presentation, the biggest opportunity of her career, and now she stood before Malik DuPont, the man whose reputation was as immaculate as his tailored navy suit. He studied her work with the stillness of a storm waiting to break. "You've got vision," he said finally, voice low, deliberate. "But I don't just need beautiful. I need believable." Nia met his gaze, unflinching. "Believable is what I do." Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, curiosity, danger. Then his phone rang, sharp and unwelcome. His jaw tightened. "My mother's gala is turning into a circus," he muttered. "My investors want proof my life isn't chaos." When he looked at her again, the air changed. Jordan, how do you feel about pretending to be my fiancée for a week?" Her heartbeat stumbled. The city lights outside seemed to hum in disbelief. Nia sat in her car, the rain now steady against the windshield. She replayed his words, "Pretend to be my fiancé," over and over, her fingers drumming the steering wheel. She'd faced tough clients, but nothing like this. Her reflection in the glass looked both terrified and intrigued. "Girl, what are you doing?" she whispered to herself. But in her mind, she could already see her father's old studio waiting for renovation, something she could finally afford if she said yes. Her phone buzzed. Malik's message was brief, decisive. "Dinner tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Let's finalize the details." She exhaled into the rhythm of the rain, realizing she was already halfway to yes. The next evening, Malik waited in the private dining room of an upscale Buckhead restaurant. The space glowed in gold and shadow, jazz humming low beneath the murmur of rain. When Nia entered, every head turned. She carried herself like a woman born for spotlight, though her expression said she wanted none of it. Their eyes met, and something unspoken settled between them. Attraction and apprehension in equal measure. Over dinner, they built their story. How they met, the moment he proposed, the ring she didn't yet have. Malik spoke with precision, almost rehearsed, but his gaze softened whenever she laughed. The line between fiction and desire blurred before dessert arrived. Back at her apartment, Nia stared at the contract Malik's legal team had emailed her. Confidentiality clauses, timelines, stipends. Her heart raced as she hovered over the signature line. It felt surreal, dangerous, exhilarating. Devin called just as she clicked accept. "Girl, please tell me you didn't just agree to fake love a CEO." He said, half laughing, half scolding. "It's just business," she replied. But even as she said it, her chest tightened. Her chest tightened. Somewhere between ambition and attraction, she was already in deeper than she wanted to admit. The next morning, Malik stepped into the mirrored lobby of his penthouse building, immaculate in a tailored suit. For the first time in years, his mother's voice replayed in his head. A man alone too long starts to believe he's untouchable. When the elevator doors opened, he found Nia waiting, radiant in a cream trench and soft curls, clutching a coffee in each hand. "Ready to meet your fiancé?" she teased lightly. His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Ready to believe it," he murmured. The air between them pulsed. Fragile, electric, dangerous. The following evening, Nia stepped out of Malik's car onto the marble driveway of his mother's estate. The air was perfumed with magnolia and rain. The Grand DuPont mansion glowed in soft amber light as guests began arriving for Cassandra's charity dinner. The first event where Nia would play the role of fiancée. Her heartbeat thrummed as Malik offered his arm, every eye on them. "Just remember," he whispered. "You're mine for the week." The words curled through her like heat. When Cassandra greeted them, her knowing smile made Nia's breath hitch. "Oh, this is the woman who finally captured my son's heart. the matriarch said, and for one fleeting moment, Nia almost believed she had. Dinner shimmered with laughter and polite deception. Nia felt the gaze of high society guests, each one evaluating her smile, her posture, the way Malik's hand occasionally brushed hers. Across the table, Simone Carter appeared, poised, immaculate, and unmistakably suspicious. "I didn't realize you were engaged," Simone said sweetly, eyes glinting. "It happened fast," Malik replied smoothly, never breaking gaze with Nia. Beneath the table, his fingers brushed against hers, a silent reassurance or a warning. Nia's cheeks flushed as she met his stare. "Pretend," she reminded herself. "Just pretend." Later that night, after the guests had gone and Cassandra retired, Nia lingered in the garden, heels sinking slightly into the damp earth. Fireflies glowed around the marble fountain, soft music drifting from the house. Malik joined her in silence, hands in his pockets, his tie loosened. "You handled them well," he said, voice low, intimate. "You make it easy," she replied. When their eyes met, the air thickened. He reached up, brushing a curl from her cheek. "Careful," she whispered. "Someone might see." Malik's answer was a half-smile, half-confession. "Maybe I want them to." The next morning, Malik's penthouse became a rehearsal ground for their story. Publicists buzzed about details, how they met, the proposal setting, the engagement ring she'd wear. Malik leaned against the marble island, studying Nia's reflection in the glass window. "You're doing this for business," she reminded him, half to herself. "And you?" he asked. "To survive," she answered softly. A silence stretched between them, full of things neither dared name. When she slipped the ring on, the diamond caught morning light, and something inside both of them shifted. That evening, Malik and Nia arrived at a charity press event. The first time the world would see them together. Flashes burst from cameras as reporters shouted questions. Malik's hand slid to her waist, steady, claiming. She smiled for the crowd, but her pulse betrayed her calm. When one reporter asked how they met, Malik's answer was simple, devastating. "She walked into my life and made everything look real." His voice carried truth he hadn't meant to reveal. And when the cameras caught his gaze falling to her lips, the entire city of Atlanta believed in their love. The DuPont Gala shimmered like a dream. Chandeliers glinting against glass ceilings, violins humming through marble halls. Nia's designs had transformed the mansion into a world of soft light and quiet decadence. But as guests arrived in gowns and diamonds, she barely noticed the praise. Her focus was Malik. He moved through the crowd like gravity in motion, his hand occasionally brushing hers, his voice low in her ear as they greeted donors together. Every touch, every glance was part of their act, yet none of it felt performed anymore. When he leaned close to whisper, "You look like temptation dressed in gold," her pulse skipped, betraying everything she tried to hide. Hours into the gala, Cassandra took the stage, her voice echoing over applause. "And of course," she smiled, "my son's fiancée deserves credit for tonight's magic." The crowd turned toward Nia, clapping, adoration in their eyes. Malik reached for her hand, lifting it gently, the gesture as tender as it was commanding. "Smile for them," he whispered. She did, radiant, controlled. Yet inside, emotion swelled dangerously. Cassandra's approving nod made her chest ache. It was the kind of pride her own father never got to give. For the first time, the lie felt like something beautiful, something she wanted to be true. Later, needing air, Nia slipped onto the mansion's terrace. The city glittered below like a scattered crown of stars. She leaned against the stone rail, closing her eyes, when Malik appeared behind her, jacket draped casually over one shoulder. "You should be inside," she murmured. "So should you," he replied. The music drifted faintly through open doors. He stepped closer, their reflections merging in the glass. "Tell me something true," he he said quietly. Her breath caught. I wish this wasn't pretend. His silence was heavy, electric. Then, his hand at her jaw, his lips at her temple. 6 seconds of stillness before he kissed her, like it was real. The kiss wasn't planned. It wasn't part of the contract or the performance. It was slow, searching, and devastatingly real. The kind of kiss that demanded honesty. When they finally parted, Nia's hand remained against his chest, feeling the thrum of his heartbeat. You didn't have to make it convincing, she whispered. Malik's gaze darkened. I wasn't. The words hit like thunder. Somewhere inside the mansion, applause erupted for a toast they'd missed, but neither of them moved. They'd stepped over the line, and there was no pretending it hadn't happened. Inside again, they rejoined the gala, masks firmly in place. But something had changed. Their gazes lingered too long, smiles too soft. Simone noticed first, her sharp eyes narrowing as she caught the tremor in Malik's voice when he introduced Nia again. You two seem close, she said, tone laced with suspicion. Nia smiled politely, fingers tightening around Malik's arm. That's what love looks like, she replied. Later, as the night ended, Malik brushed a kiss across her knuckles before the waiting cameras. This time, the cameras didn't capture an act. They captured truth unfolding. The morning after the gala, Malik found Nia in his penthouse kitchen, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She sipped coffee, eyes distant, tracing patterns on the marble counter. You were magnificent last night, he said softly. Nia looked up, half-smile trembling. Was that me or the act? She asked. Malik stepped closer, his shadow falling across the counter, heat radiating from his presence. Does it matter? He murmured. She swallowed, the tension of 7 days of pretend crashing into something fragile, undeniable. Silence filled the space between them, thick with unspoken longing. Later, Malik invited Nia to his office. The walls were lined with books and sleek trophies, the accolades of a man who controlled everything but his heart. Why do you do this? Nia asked, gesturing to the framed newspaper clippings of his successes. Control. Malik's voice was low. Protection. She studied his profile, noting the tight jaw, the tension in his shoulders. You don't let anyone in, she whispered. Except me, he said, almost involuntarily. Her heart skipped. The weight of the truth behind the fake engagement pressed on them both. By midweek, the couple faced a private moment in Malik's rooftop garden. The city lights shimmered below, soft wind brushing Nia's curls against her neck. I'm not just pretending anymore, she admitted, voice barely audible. Malik froze, heart hammering. Neither am I, he said, stepping closer, hands brushing her waist. A breeze carried jasmine from the garden beds, mixing with the electricity between them. Their eyes locked, words unnecessary. For a moment, time paused, a dangerous, intoxicating suspension that made pretending impossible. Later, Malik confided in Nia in the quiet of his study. I've been alone too long, he admitted, voice raw. I thought I could control love with contracts and schedules. I didn't expect this. Nia reached out, touching his hand, feeling the tension in his knuckles. We're human, she said softly. Even CEOs. The words hung between them, simple, grounding. His barriers trembled as she traced her thumb across his hand. The fake engagement blurred further. Every touch carried meaning. Every glance was confession. The week's rehearsed touches turned urgent. At a charity fundraiser for local artists, Nia and Malik were photographed dancing, close, tender, unguarded. A reporter whispered about the couple everyone is talking about, and Malik pressed a kiss to Nia's temple before the camera clicked. Later, in the privacy of his penthouse, he rested his forehead against hers. I can't go back to pretending, he confessed. Nia's breath hitched. Then don't, she whispered. For the first time, The pretense was gone, and the truth, fiery and unplanned, had begun. A week later, Nia returned to her studio, hopeful after the gala's success. But the atmosphere shifted when her phone buzzed with a familiar name. Simone Carter. Arms v. Jordan. Simone's voice was smooth, almost venomous. Do you realize how interesting your engagement looks from the outside? Nia's chest tightened. She had suspected Simone would try to interfere, but hearing it now made the pretense feel fragile. I don't know what you mean, Nia replied, though her voice wavered. Simone's laugh was sharp, deliberate. Oh, I think you do. I have proof. This whole week has been orchestrated. Nia's fingers trembled, and the color drained from her face. Later that evening, Malik and Nia convened in his penthouse living room. The city's lights blurred through rain-streaked windows, casting reflections across marble floors. Simone knows, Nia admitted, her voice low. Malik's jaw tightened. His hand found hers instinctively. Let her leak it, he said. We've done nothing wrong, but Nia shook her head. Our story, our reputations. If she goes public, it could ruin both of us. Malik's gaze softened as he studied her worry, realizing just how much he cared. And that this week-long game had already cost them both. The next morning, Simone arrived at the charity auction Malik had sponsored, camera crew in tow. A few questions about your engagement, Mr. DuPont, she said sweetly. Malik, ever composed, stood beside Nia, protective arms subtly circling her waist. All questions about me should come to me, he said firmly. Nia's heart pounded. The flashbulbs clicked incessantly, and she realized the world was watching, and if Simone's evidence surfaced, every careful step of the past week could unravel. Later, Nia confronted Malik in private. We can't let this ruin us, she said, voice trembling but determined. Malik's fingers brushed her cheek. I'll take the fall if I have to, he replied. No, Nia said firmly, stepping closer. We face it together. Their eyes locked, fierce, vulnerable, undeniable. In that moment, the line between fake and real blurred completely. The stakes were high, but so were the emotions they could no longer deny. By nightfall, Malik and Nia decided to reclaim their narrative. They attended a private fundraiser as a united front, standing side by side with genuine affection rather than pretense. Cameras captured their smiles, the subtle touches, the lingering glances. Simone lingered in the background, thwarted but determined. Malik whispered to Nia, no matter what happens, I'm not pretending with you anymore. Nia's smile softened, eyes glistening. Then neither am I. The fake engagement had survived exposure, but only because they were learning that love could survive honesty too. The morning after the scandal broke, Nia sat alone in her apartment. The city quiet outside, rain-streaked windows. Headlines flashed on her phone. DuPont engagement scandal. Fake fiancé revealed. Her chest tightened with a mixture of fear and shame. Devon paced nearby, his voice frantic. Nia, you have to do something. She shook her head. I can't. Not yet. I need space to think. Every memory of Malik. The touch, the kiss, the whispered confessions, replayed in her mind. Bittersweet distance stretched between them, invisible but heavy, and she feared it might never close. Across the city, Malik stood in his penthouse, overlooking the skyline, untouched champagne glass in hand. The empty room echoed with his own thoughts, anger, frustration, longing. He had tried to protect Nia, to shield her from public scrutiny, but in doing so, had created an unbridgeable silence. I've pushed everyone away, he murmured, fingers tracing the rim of his glass. His reflection in the window betrayed vulnerability he didn't allow himself publicly. For the first time, control slipped, and the distance between him and Nia felt insurmountable. Days passed with no contact. Nia buried herself in work, designing a high-profile gala for a prominent client. Every task a distraction from Malik's absence. Yet every brushstroke and floral arrangement reminded her of him. The way he'd critique details, the subtle touches that had now vanished. She closed her eyes and whispered his name, realizing for the first time that pretending had been easy compared to losing him. Heartache and longing mingled, sharp and consuming. Malik, unable to focus on work, wandered his office floor-to-ceiling windows, reviewing contracts he no longer cared about. Each email reminded him that nothing felt real. Except Nia. Every encounter, every whispered confession, every kiss, he clung to them in memory. But pride and fear kept him from reaching out. He realized that his love for her was not a distraction. It was a force, dangerous and irresistible, and the only thing capable of breaking his walls. The distance reached its peak at a charity gala Nia attended alone. Malik's absence gnawed at her with every step. She smiled at guests, praised artwork, answered questions, all while replaying their week together in her mind. Across the hall, Malik entered quietly, eyes searching. They paused for a moment, worlds apart yet inches away. Neither spoke. Their hands almost touched as the crowd swirled between them, the unspoken acknowledgement of love. Real, urgent, undeniable, filling the space. It was a heartbreak of proximity. The bitter ache of two people who refused to pretend anymore, yet couldn't reach each other. Weeks had passed since the scandal, but Nia's heart had not healed. She hosted a showcase for her latest event designs at her studio, soft, ambient music filling the space. Her clients and friends mingled, but her thoughts remained on Malik, the warmth of his touch, the intensity of his gaze. Suddenly, the doors opened. Malik stepped in, rain-slick hair perfectly styled, tailored navy suit hugging his broad shoulders, his eyes locked on hers, every other sound fading. "Nia," he said, voice low and urgent. "I've been an idiot. I've let fear and pride keep me from saying what I should have days ago. I love you. Not pretending. Not a week-long game. Real. Always real." Nia's breath caught, tears forming as the distance between them collapsed in that single perfect confession. Nia stepped forward instinctively, her hands reaching for his. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that," she whispered. Malik smiled, brushing her curls behind her ear, thumb tracing her jaw. The city outside glimmered through the windows, a silent witness to the moment that had been weeks, months, in the making. "I don't want to wait any longer," he said. Her lips trembled in response. Their foreheads touched, and the world contracted to this one breath. One heartbeat shared between them. Malik dropped to one knee without hesitation, pulling a sleek velvet box from his pocket. "Nia Jordan, you were supposed to be my fiancée for a week," he said, voice steady but full of emotion. "Instead, you became my heart, my truth, my forever. Will you marry me?" Nia's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming freely as laughter and sobs mixed. "Yes, of course," she cried, and Malik slid the ring onto her finger with a tenderness that erased all doubt and fear. As they embraced, the studio seemed to disappear. Only the two of them existed, entwined in relief, passion, and unspoken promises. Malik held her close, whispering against her hair, "No more pretending, just us." Nia pressed her face into his chest, feeling the steady beat of a heart that had waited for her. Every challenge, every moment of separation melted away in the warmth of finally being together, without facade, without fear. The following evening, Malik and Nia attended a quiet rooftop dinner overlooking Atlanta's glittering skyline. The city's lights reflected in their eyes, mirroring the love and joy between them. "So," Nia teased, "does this mean we skip the fake engagement next time?" Malik chuckled, fingers entwined with hers. "Next time? There's no next time. This is real. This is only real." They clinked glasses, Laughter spilling into the night, hearts aligned, the pretense fully behind them. Love, once a game, had finally become forever.